Good evening, C3 parents. It's your coach, Karien Pitout, and welcome. Tonight we are actually going to do a reaction to Reddit or parenting, and we're going to talk a bit about the neurodivergent community, which I'm a part of, but also an important conversation that happened on the Reddit. So I'll see you on the other side of our intro. Hey everybody, so let's quickly talk about what is going on. We are doing a Reddit reading and I'm going to react to it. I'm not a very funny person, I'm a very serious person at times. If you like the content, please hit like button, please comment down below. It really is great and it really helps the channel. And if you're new here, subscribe. Let's dive right into what we are reacting to. My family is using my autistic son as a "this is what happens" lesson to my pregnant sister. My son is 4 years old and is level 2 autism. I've been concerned about him since he was 1. He was delayed in almost everything. At 2, he wasn't talking or engaging in certain things. Everyone kept saying, "Give him time." I didn't listen and got him tested. Lo and behold, the kid puts up the O in autism, or the AU in autism. Ever since, everyone has been trying to pinpoint why, what and where my son could have gotten autism from. Maybe it was the water, maybe it was the medicine, maybe it was the epidural, maybe it was all those vaccines. Fast forward, my sister is having a baby and my son is the topic of every conversation. You better watch what you take. Medication, the baby could get autism like blah blah blah. Better stop doing this so the baby doesn't come out like blah blah blah. Basically trying to do any and everything to prevent the baby from having autism like my son. It is already bad enough that I feel bad that my child isn't normal, and just makes me feel even worse. I know her child will get treated better than my son, and that makes me even more sad. Anyways, thanks for listening to my rant. There's so much to unpack here. First of all, I understand that in diagnostics, especially still in America and still actually around the world, let's address the elephant in the room, that autism is still diagnosed as if it's in different levels. Autism is actually a spectrum, which means you can be autistic and have a variety of challenges that you face, because autism is a spectrum disability, so it affects the brain differently in each autist. Some might appear like they are functioning better, also functioning better in society because of certain skills that they're capable of doing. For instance, the communicating with the mouth instead of using something else would put a autist diagnosis on a so-called higher level. But it does not mean, just because they verbally communicate does not mean that they other challenges or other disabilities that come with autism does not severely affect them or badly affect them and actually make their life so much more difficult. So the whole level 1, level 2, level 3, what it actually creates within the autistic community, and I know I'm like derailing because I am going to answer the conversation that's being had here on Reddit. What it does to the autistic community is it actually withholds help from people. Oh no, but you're a level 1 and so you're so high functioning, you don't need therapy, you don't need these supports, you don't need X, Y, and Z, because oh, you just fit in. In the meantime, that's not the reality what's going on. So these so-called levels is actually so damaging to the autistic community. I'm very excited, however, that the mom refers to a child as autistic and not like my child has the autism. Yeah, she does say has level 2, but it's because of a lot of times parents, when your child gets diagnosed, you start using the language that the professionals are using. And professionals need to actually start listening to the autistic community and just remove the whole level thing. And like, you get your autistic diagnosis, look at the spectrum and say, okay, these things in the diagnosis affect you and have your disability, and therefore you will need this, that, and the next thing, instead of these levels, because levels causes exclusion. But in any way, I'll get off my soapbox. Anyway, it is so sad that this mom talks about her 4-year-old and the battle that a lot of autistics and the neurospicy or the neurodivergent community face is people treat autism as if it needs to be cured. It's a mistake. Something went wrong. And trying to find a cure, trying to find a reason for, and ironically enough, it's genetic. You won the genetic lottery, and you can either have it or you don't. Usually, obviously, if it's in a family, chances are that your children will be neurodivergent, will be neurospicy. You might end up being a neurospicy household with one neurotypical person, which means actually in that household the neurotypical person is actually the odd one out. But let's not dive into that. Is the neurodivergent one, because the rest of the families. Anyway, I keep carried away. The sad thing is, this mom, or this parent, I assume it's a mom. I always assume it's a mom, which is bad of me. This parent is so bombarded, and instead of being supported with, you did something wrong, it must have been a medicine, must have been vaccines, it must have been this, must have been that her kid, she or he, the parent, is treated as if they were a failure or did something to damage their kid. And now the family treats this kid as if they're damaged, and this kid is a cautionary tale. So what do we do when we have a situation like this, when we are dealing with family members who look at our kids when our kids are neurospicy or differently abled, or how do we handle this when our child is viewed and treated as defective by the people that's supposed to support you? So the first thing is, when in this specific situation, you need to sit down and actually have a conversation with your family and be very upfront with them and say to them, first of all, it's a neurological thing, it is genetic. Nothing this parent, pregnant sister, whatever is going to do will cause autism in a child, number one. Number two, if she's family, she might actually give birth to a child that's autistic because it's genetic. Then also to call them out. And if calling them out when they start talking like that about your kid does not change the conversation, then unfortunately you're going to have to look at how you set your boundaries with family. Part of your journey as the parent of the child, of the autistic child, of being that parent or being responsible for a child, period, is choosing people and allowing people in your child's life that is safe for them. But we also have to look at how we talk about our kid, how we think about our kid, how we approach things. If you've got a child that's differently abled, seek out the community of people that has the same disability that your child has. because they live with it. They will explain to you, they will teach you, they want to help you, they want to support you, but you need to be okay to sit down, zip your lips, and listen to what they have to say. Because they're the people that live with it. You're raising a kid that's going to have to live with it, especially if you don't have that disability. So you as a mom, or as a dad, or as a parent of a differently abled kid, of a neurospastic kid, you need to engage with the people that actually live with that disability, but not with a, oh, let's cure you, let's figure out what's wrong, let's not approaching it as a, oh, we need to find a way to fix it, or you trying to educate them, but rather for you to be educated to become the best possible parent that your child may have and can have. The mere fact that you've got family that will treat your child differently, yes, you need to speak to them. Yes, you need to help start educating them, but you also need to get educated to be able to educate them. You also need to start setting up boundaries and then making the difficult decision. Is this the people that I want around my kid? Is this the people whose influence I want around my kid? Do I want my kid to experience at every family function, at every single time that they see these people, that they are just, in those family members' eyes, just not good enough? Do I want my kid growing up and feeling that the whole time, their whole life? Do your due diligence, get educated, start educating, but by all means, protect your kid. Protect your kid from ignorant a-holes. Because at the end of the day, you are the parent of this kid. You're going to have to look your kid in the eye and say, I did my due diligence to not only raise you correctly, but also making choices to protect you against people that just don't get it. Because there are people that just don't get it or choose not to get it. The fact that your family here is like medication and vaccines and all of that already tells me that you're moving in a family circle where fake news and the in touchness with science is already dicey to begin with. Go read up, go study, go get yourself educated with proper research if need be, and also the strongest and loudest voices is the people living with the disability. They will teach you that how the spectrum works, how autism affects, and how it actually the challenges start surfacing. Because here's the thing, like you wrote in your bit that at 2 your kiddo wasn't talking yet, and people said give him time, because between the age of 2 and 3 it is kind of age appropriate that some kids will lag behind without having a neurodivergent diagnosis. It's just either lazy to talk, or just it might be a hearing thing. So there's various things that might say, well, that's why the kid is not talking, but it's like age appropriate. So even when they initially get their diagnosis and certain behaviors or certain challenges that points in the direction of, you might think won't be an issue in the long run because it's age appropriate, but it can continue later on because that might be part of their disability and not just an age appropriate action. And while I'm on this whole thing, I've answered, I've been processing this posting like the whole day, so I can keep us here for the rest of the night. While I'm on this, a lot of times people would view autistic kids or autistic people as non-verbal because they cannot speak with their mouth, as if they don't completely don't communicate. And behavior is a form of communication, number one. Number two, they are amazing. You can teach them sign language. There is tablets that, excuse me, I can't even remember what the device, so if you remember what the device name is, if your family uses it, please comment down below. But there's devices that helps children on the spectrum to actually communicate in a way that the people around them understands them. But just because you do not understand what the kid is communicating does not mean the child is not communicating and that the child is all of a sudden like this closed book. You just don't. You won't go to a different country and look at someone that speaks a different language to you, and when they talk to you in a different language that you don't understand, you won't all of a sudden say, oh no, but they're non-verbal or they can't speak, because they're just using a different language. The same with the whole concept of the verbal ability of people, communication ability, as a world that functions in the neurotypical. The neurotypical way of communication is usually using the mouth and making mouth sounds, and that is a language. And therefore, when someone struggles with the mouth sounds as a language, all of a sudden we say, oh no, this person's non-verbal. And that's is not, they don't communicate. And we use the term non-verbal, but they just don't use mouth words, but they are communicating. They are listening, they are interpreting, they are hearing, they are experiencing the world. Their brain is still developing as normally it would grow and develop, and these influences have an impact on them. And just because you don't understand them, or a lot of times when kids don't communicate with mouth words, they get treated as if there's something wrong with their brain, to the extent that they don't understand anything, that they're stupid. And I hate using that word, but that's basically, I can't get to, as if they're mentally disabled to the degree where they can't think for themselves. And here's the reality: they can. There are so many autistic voices on the internet, and the internet's an amazing thing. There's so many autistic voices on the internet that you can listen to. And I use the word listen in the sense that you can read up their stuff. You can, some do make videos or whatever, but a lot write. Many autistics write, and they give us information, they communicate. But a lot of them might not be in a position where they use mouth words when they communicate with you, but they can type and they can communicate in other ways. And we need to start looking at how ableist we are, and especially when we start embracing and moving in neurodiverse communities and actually start looking at the neurodivergent community, whether you have a child that's autistic or neurodiverse, or whether you've got a friend that's got a child, or a family member's got a child, or you yourself start picking up, but I might not be neurotypical, or my spouse might not be neurotypical. We need to acknowledge that what makes autism a disability, or ADHD or neurodiversity a disability, is not that the person that's living with the disability is broken, is that the world that they're living in is not set up for them, and therefore puts them in a position, or in a disabled position, to be able to live their life to the fullest. And so what creates a disability is the fact that the world does not accommodate or cater for them. It's not that there's something wrong with them. The world just does not cater for them. So we need to start making sure that the world is inclusive and caters for that. Back to the whole thing. Have a conversation with your pregnant sister as well, and tell her that you need to stop and you need her to speak up as well. I can imagine she's extremely frustrated because she's being threatened. But there is a lot of bias in that family. And it breaks my heart to think that there's a little boy living in a home where autism, it sounds like in the beginning of the journey, trying to figure out how to create an environment where the autistic kid is not disabled, but enabled to live their life to the fullest, and then running up against this wall of ableism within a family and just using a kid, a disability, as a scapegoat. It is, and here's the thing, I remember growing up like, oh, don't do that because you don't want to end up in a wheelchair. Oh, don't do this, you don't want to. How people's disabilities become, like, it's used as scapegoats, is just, it's alarming, and it's incredibly damaging. Anyway, I love you all. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. If you want to join the C3 Parenting Patreon community, link is in the bottom down below. If you like this, please hit the like button. If you want to add to this conversation, please feel free to add to this conversation. I promise not all of our conversations will be this serious, but this one really tugged me. I was really struggling with this one. The whole day I tried to think of how I would try to approach it. But I'm really passionate about it. I myself is neurodivergent. I've got a neurodivergent kid, actually kiddos. We are a neurospicy family, and it just breaks my heart that the education regarding neurodiversity is just not, it's just not there, and the ignorance and the harm, it just hurts. Anyway, guys, and people, C3 parents, stay safe. I'll see you guys next week. See everybody next week. But next week it is an Afrikaans session. I'm going to find hopefully a Reddit kind of thing in Afrikaans where I can react to. Otherwise, there will be some Facebook posts where I react to certain behavioral stuff. And then stay safe. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And may you really have an amazing week that lies ahead. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Cheers.